crazy week in politics and news with lots of stuff to discuss and rant and dissect and go on about. I've got lots to cover today. In a little while, I'll have a guest on, Tamara Leach. Of course, everybody remembers her from the convoy, who's been arrested, convicted, sentenced, house arrest, community hours, all that stuff. We'll get updates from Tamara and see exactly what's going on with her now. And it's I think there was a recent court ruling saying the convoy wasn't justified. They weren't supposed to, the Emergencies Act and things such as that. But, the courts find this years later, but nobody ever seems to face consequences within government. But when you're outside of government, boy, they certainly don't let off on you, do they? All right. Well, speaking of things not letting off on and not letting go of, I want to go on about the Kamloops residential school child burial hoax. I know you've heard me go on about it before, but we can't stop talking about this. We can't let them sweep it under the rug. It's been nearly 5 years since that bombshell revelation was released that the graves of 215 children had been found at the site of the former Kamloops residential school site. And since then, the Kamloops First Nation was given over $12 million expressly to exhume and identify the remains. While the band made the money vanish, it didn't move a single teaspoon of dirt trying to find a grave. The hoax of the child burials is now moving into fraud territory, as some people have pocketed some serious coin here, haven't they? So no, we can't let it go. And bands across the nation, they're emulating the Kamloops band approach, and it's a lucrative venture. It's also causing more social division among people already in a socially dysfunctional state. There were a couple reserves of alleged grave sites. Some excavation of those sites took place, and then they discovered there was no remains there. So rest assured, the bands won't make that mistake again. They'll just keep demanding money not to look. So Kamloops band chief Roseanne Casimir said in 2022, the nation's approach as an ongoing process of, and this is her words, exhumation to memorialization, ongoing indeed. Once questions began arising from people about how many children had been exhumed, the government leapt into the issue by sealing the records of the alleged investigation. The band was supposed to produce regular reports of their progress in investigating the alleged graves as part of their conditions of the funding. But rather than admit the reports were either trash or non-existent, the government covered it up for the band. It's not the band's money. It's the taxpayers' money, and we do deserve to know where it went. The Kamloops band got another $12.5 billion to build a healing house to recover from the trauma caused by the non-existent graves as well. So as pressure continued to mount, and there has been some, finally, a little bit, Chief Roseanne Casimir said she issued a press release rife with excuses not to dig and basically full of outright BS. The band claims they must seek consensus from 38 Indigenous bands before excavating and that spiritual protocols must be considered. That's simply a load of crap. If spiritual protocols called for the remains to be left buried by the alleged murderers, there wouldn't have been millions spent digging up the Winnipeg landfill seeking the remains of 2 Indigenous women. Spiritual protocols in just about every culture typically demand the remains be dealt with by the family of the deceased. That's where the hoax has another challenge, though. There's not a single family claiming to have lost a member at the Kamloops residential school site. Despite these alleged murders having happened in the 50s and 60s, not one family stepped up to say it was their son, cousin, daughter, whatever it may be. Part of the funds given actually were to find these families, but it appears the band put as much effort into that as they did in exhuming the graves. We haven't even proven a single grave exists there. To claim we have to treat these as sacred is just hooey. Let's be blunt here. If the band really thought there were children buried there, they'd be digging one up every month and issuing a fresh press release along with rage and demands for compensation. The real reason the band won't dig is they know damn well there's no graves. It would literally only take a couple hours to resolve the issue one way or another, and they refuse to do it. The RCMP knows there's no bodies there as well. Despite a commonly held myth, First Nations aren't really sovereign nations. They are subject to the law of the land, just like any other municipality. If a person was murdered and buried on a reserve land, the reserve has no authority to block a forensic investigation and exhumation. If they did, they could start a cottage industry of selling burial plots to murderers. The reason the RCMP isn't digging is because there was no bodies and there's no crime. Hundreds of churches, though, were burned to the ground and vandalized over these revelations. Hundreds of millions of tax dollars were tossed at the issues. Flags were at half-mast for months. Relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people were frayed further than they already were, and all over a hoax. And yes, I'm going to keep using that word, guys. The hoax isn't simply a footnote that we can look back upon and try to forget about. It's an ongoing thing as race hustlers continue to milk it and take millions of dollars to perpetuate it rather than resolve it. As long as the Kamloops residential child burial hoax remains investigated, it becomes more difficult to believe the allegations of abuse at other residential schools, doesn't it? People are going to look at every claim with a jaundiced eye and with good reason, even if some of those claims might be real. For the sake of Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, we must follow through and excavate in Kamloops. We must hold the fraudsters responsible too. It should be our right to see detailed reports on just where the $12 million was spent, and if any of it was spent on anything aside from investigating the graves, we must demand it be repaid. If it isn't repaid, it's time for legal recourse. The era of banned irresponsibility must end, and this hoax is too damaging to leave unresolved any longer. All right, well, that's what's got me wound up today. Let's check in with the news editor, Dave Naylor. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Corey. How are you?
I'm all right. You're a little rough in the throat.
I'm a little rough in the throat. Been battling a bug for a couple of days, but I'm feeling well enough. What do you say after work? You and I go to Home Depot, get a couple of shovels, drive out there, start digging. What do you think would happen?
Well, we'd be arrested quite quickly, I suspect. But I'm no law expert.
How fast can you dig?
I don't know. We'll have to wait the ground thaws a little more, maybe.
I'm kind of surprised in a way that nobody hasn't tried to do that. I mean, we've got a nation of sort of people who might,
Well, it's just a lot of people, sitting around nothing better to do with their time, pop out and have a little digging party or something. I don't know. I'm not counseling anybody.
No, we wouldn't do that, would we? So you're fully recovered from your vacation now, and back in the winter mode, even though it's above zero now.
It's as nice as a February is going to get. So I'm not going to piss and moan too much about returning to winter. Well, it's not been a bad one, really.
Yeah, it's not. February was good, except for the last week. So another busy day. Again, we got leading off the site at the moment is a column or a piece from Jared Yager out in Vancouver. Apparently, a member of City Council lost their mind yesterday on a broadcast and accused all the of taking drugs. They're all drug users. He sort of quickly took it down and apologized, but it's funny. One of our favorite topics, recall, another fiasco this week with Nathan Neudorf, as of the one recall petition against him is officially ended. And apparently they didn't get one signature. Not one, Corey.
Yeah, well, that was the one that they thought maybe some fellow might have been doing it just to disrupt the recall process and then purposely shelved it.
We've been get a hold of them forever, and there's just no way.
Even if that's the case, I don't know, but none of these came anywhere even vaguely close. I mean, it wasn't going to happen.
No. Keystone XL revival is again making the rounds. Our energy expert, Dave Winnick, has the story on that. This will come as no surprise to you, Corey. MPs are saying the $2 billion that we've given to Canada Post, taxpayers' money to keep them going, is lost, and we'll never, ever see it again.
Jeez, well, you never would have thought that they'd be at bad credit risk.
No, you wouldn't. Speaking of a lot of money, there's more the movement for a high-speed rail is moving forward between Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto. The head guy says it's very sexy, but could cost $90 billion. $90 billion.
And we know how these work. When they say $90 billion now, that means, 20 years late and, 10 times over budget.
Yeah, but you look around the world and all the developed countries have high-speed rail, right? I mean, how long has it been in Japan? For decades. Well, we should have been jumping on this ages ago.
I don't know. I mean, there's density differences and cultural differences and things that make those more viable. I mean, California, I think, is the model people should look at if they want to see about a North American one.
Yeah,
it hasn't been going very well.
It hasn't. Cuba, suffering greatly under the American embargo, so Canada's going to send money. Millions and millions of dollars in aid is set to go to Cuba, and some Tory MPs are saying, "Hey, wait a minute! Don't forget, this is a communist country who jails dissidents and stuff like that. You might want to think about it."
So does Canada.
Yeah, true. Bill Gates finally has admitted that he did kind of have sex with those two Russians that he came across while visiting Jeffrey Epstein. So it was a $12 billion affair, Corey. That's how much he had to give his wife when they split up. $12 billion. Ouch. I'm not sure any affair is worth that much.
No. Regardless the cost, man, that's something. I mean, it's at first I'd been rolling my eyes with this Epstein thing for so long, but we're seeing it really starting to trickle out. It's starting to catch my interest more. I mean, this guy was a power broker. I mean, you could see now, I think, I mean, I'm just guessing everybody else is, but he had quite a nice little leverage racket with a lot of powerful people.
Oh, absolutely. Highest establishment in Great Britain. Prince Andrew, the U.S. ambassador former U.S. ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson. So yeah, it's he had his thumb on a lot of people, a lot of very important people.
It's not that surprising then when he got arrested that he suddenly committed suicide.
Worst case of suicide I ever did see.
Well, it'll give us lots to keep unpacking and looking into. I mean, it's a massive data dump, and there's still only more to come. I think.
Lots more to come. The most damning stuff, because this is the stuff they're working harder to redact. So it's going to be interesting. Story that won't go away. Keeps on giving.
Well, that's good. When we get a slow news day, we've always got the Epstein files.
If there is ever a slow news day.
True, we haven't had those lately.
Not a lot.
All right. Well, thanks, Dave. I'll let you hack your way back into the office there.
You bet. Thank you.
See you after the show.
See you later.
All right. It is our news editor, Dave Naylor. And yes, lots on the go. We cover everything from those international issues such as the Epstein files to, of course, a lot of domestic and local stuff. And the reason we can do it is we're going to nag, shake the cup, rattle it, beg for money. Well, not begging. We offer a service in return for subscriptions, guys. Check it out. westernstandard.news/subscription. Take one out. It's $10 a month, $100 for a year. Well worth it. And we will remain accountable to you and be able to keep getting those reporters out there asking those questions and getting that information. So in the next segment, we tried this last week, but this is brand new. We're going to try and get some callers in if you like. Okay. So it's a little different. We don't have like the full radio station sort of setup. What you do is call. If the first person gets in on hold, essentially at that point, we'll be able to pull you in a little later on to it. The phone number is 866-479-9378. And it's extension 711. You'll see it at the bottom. So consider it, after that segment. Call in, bend my ear, tell me what you think about a few things, argue with me. Let's have some fun with it. Lots of stuff to talk about. I mean, I don't know where to begin. As Dave said, no shortage of news stories going on. That ruling you might have seen, and I don't typically jump into the trans issues and all that stuff. I tend to be actually pretty socially liberal, but I'm also of the point, I'm a libertarian, that people should be able to say whatever the heck they like, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it. And that case in BC, $750,000 against that teacher. And among the things within it was hurt feelings. Guys, there is no right not to have your feelings hurt. I'm sorry. Hey, having your feelings hurt sucks. It all happens to us now and then. Those are the lessons we learn all the way from elementary school, well, probably to the grave. But it doesn't mean you should be financially compensated for it. And that number is beyond the pale. I mean, that's ridiculous. It was bad enough hearing about a hairstylist that got fined $500 from one of these kangaroo courts, human rights tribunals, because they didn't have a non-binary option. But then hurt feelings. I mean, I don't know. I didn't look much into this teacher. I'm guessing maybe he was pretty nasty and rude about things. Oh, well, life sucks. Get on, get over it. $750,000. And that caught international attention from, of all people. And this is where I'm getting some hope, though, with the tide changing on some stuff. John Cleese, from Monty Python, from over there, always had been quite a lefty. He liked to talk about politics on X, and you see his commentary and things. But he's hit that point, I think, where, well, for one, he's old enough. A lot of older people get to the point where there's just no filter left, and they'll just say whatever comes in their mind. So just imagine what I'm going to be like in 20 more years. Either way, Cleese always been outspoken. And now, though, he's drifting quite a ways from the left. And he was talking about doing a tour across Canada. He does, comedy, speaking tours, things like that around the world. And he called up that ruling and said, whoa, you know what? I think I might reconsider coming to Canada altogether. If that's the sort of thing they do when it comes to speech and ideas like that. You see, comedians are on the front line of free speech. As well, he's been ripping into Islam in a way that I get on X and follow John Cleese, this turnaround from a high-profile person saying the quiet part out loud at last, which is great to see. I mean, we've been ripping into some of those cultural and problems for a long time, but now we're starting to see people on a different caliber level. So check him out on there. It's maybe some tides are turning. All right, let's get to my guest before she gets arrested again or something like that. It's Tara Leach. Everybody knows who she is, and she was with the truckers convoy, of course, and a terrible threat to the security of the nation, to the point of having to be imprisoned without bail for weeks and weeks at a time. Now she's mostly free, and she's here to talk to us today. So how's it going, Tamara?
It's going really well, Corey. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to see you again.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's been a while. So I appreciate that. I guess for part of it, though, for a lot of people, they might not have seen stuff. Just to bring them up to date, uh, you're still under a house arrest, but now because of workplace allowances, you're allowed to kind of travel around a bit, right?
Correct. Yes, I am currently serving an 18-month sentence, 12 months house arrest, and then 6 months of curfew. However, I was given 74 days time served due to the nearly 50 that I spent in jail, which is funny because that's pretty much unprecedented for a mischief period. So my sentence will be complete on January the 21st. Chris Barber's will be complete at the end of next April.
Okay, well, and you did some community service for a bit too.
I did. Yeah, I had 100 hours of community service to perform. So between my church, I worked there once a week and also 3 times a week at the local food bank. And I really enjoyed my time there. It didn't really seem like punishment, to be honest. I'm still volunteering actually at the food bank. They're going to let me continue to do that, which is quite nice.
Well, that's kind of a good outcome. Though it's better if you just choose to do those things rather than have a judge mandated. It can ruin a good thing. So I mean, frustration you've got to be expressing, I imagine, to a degree. Though we're seeing, rulings are following up and realizing it was the federal government that was unreasonable during the convoy. Month basically, or months even. I mean, the Emergencies Act was beyond the pale. It was out of control, but still they never backed off on cracking down on you and Chris Barber, but nobody in the government has been held accountable. There's no sign that they will be.
Well, obviously, that is a source of frustration for Chris and myself, and I'm sure many other Freedom Convoy people that were persecuted or prosecuted and charged. It is, as I just said, I've been convicted in a court of law, found guilty of committing mischief, and I'm serving my sentence. And it is frustrating knowing that the government of Canada, the Liberal Party of Canada, invoking the Emergencies Act was ruled ultra vires and unlawful. And we haven't even had a statement from the PMO or the Justice Minister on the Federal Court of Appeals ruling, which upheld Justice Mosley's decision. So apparently in Canada, mischief is a more heinous and punishable crime than trampling your rights and freedoms, is the message that this is sending to Canadians.
Well, it's something that should be applied to both, your own case and with the federal government and how things have gone. I mean, we've really let things get so slow in our court system, though. These are things that should be resolved in much, much less time for the sake of the defendant, whether they're guilty or not. And likewise with the government. I mean, if they've done wrong, we want to get to the bottom of it rather than taking 4 or 5 years and then things are forgotten or can be swept under the rug or people kind of let it go. I mean, it's right. The process is the punishment.
Well, and I think that's the point. I think the point is they want to just ignore this ruling and sweep it under the rug and hope everybody forgets about it. Like I said, it's very unusual that they haven't even issued a statement about it. And not only that, but even the pandemic as a whole, we haven't even had an inquiry or anything into the handling of it, what they could do differently next time, what they would do better, what they wouldn't do. I mean, generally, in a situation of that magnitude, you see inquests and inquiries and investigations that follow something like that. So we haven't even seen any type of action in that form yet either.
No, and I mean, I don't think enough Canadians should forget the gravity of exercising something as serious as the Emergencies Act. I mean, it's a version of martial law. It's an emergency button for a government if the aliens are invading or if something really disastrous has really occurred to the point where we have to suspend civil liberties for a short period of time to get it under control. And it's become quite clear that didn't meet that bar in Canada during the convoy. But again, there's been no consequence for not meeting that bar. The case in Korea, we heard mentioned the other night with a former prime minister there. He got quite heavily penalized for wrongly imposing the Emergencies Act there.
Yes, he's facing life in prison, I believe, for his invocation of their version of martial law. And Justin Trudeau got Katy Perry. So, And what we're seeing, too, is that a lot of these MPs that were involved or former MPs that were involved in the decision to invoke the Emergencies Act are all failing upwards. They're being, sort of pushed out of cabinet or pushed out of parliament into these nice, cushy consulting jobs. Yara Sachs, I believe, the lady who stood up in the House of Commons and said honk, honk was the same as us saying Kyle, the bad guy. Absolutely ludicrous, is working for the Sussex Strategy Group. Now, if you look up the Sussex Strategy Group, they're just a bunch of people that sit around, talking. This is how these people end up, or they get nice cushy ambassador jobs too, right? But no accountability.
No, it says a lot with a lot of those jobs. If they're ambassadorships, there are other consultancies or things, but it's amazing how many of them end up out of the country for their soft landing, where they will be forgotten about and not questioned, rather than even a local directorship or Crown Corporation head or something like that going on here. A lot of them lately just seem to be hopping the border when they finish up.
Yes, I know. Everyone should be so lucky, eh?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, as we sit around talking for a living as well, we don't get compensated nearly as well as those guys do.
No.
So speaking of which, you've been on the tour with myself, and this has been something you've been working on. You've always been something of an independent with Maverick days in the past and currently. So I'm gonna, take a leap and imagine you've kind of come to the same conclusion of me that the Federation really can't be repaired, but maybe we can fix a part of it.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, as you heard me talk about, I sort of did a whole 360 on the independence thing. Obviously, I grew up a proud Canadian, and then joined, the Wexit movement and the Maverick Party throughout that, actively helped Jason Kenney and my local MLA in the 2019 provincial election. And then, of course, my perspective shifted when I went across Canada with the Freedom Convoy and I saw, these Canadians all come together. And I really believe that, it was worth saving. I still believe Canada is worth saving. I'm just unsure of if it can be saved. And so I believe, the run for independence, I think this is a great way to exercise democracy and to give the Albertans a choice and a voice. And it's going to be a really exciting year. I mean, it's really exciting to go out to these petition signings and seeing all the smiling faces and a lot of hope and a lot of excitement for the future again, which is quite reminiscent of how it felt when we drove across Canada. So as much as I think it's sad to see this happening, and I don't think anyone really wants to see Canada break apart, we have to sort of save ourselves, I think. This is not working for us. And you'll hear the question repeatedly, if Alberta wasn't already a part of Confederation, if we were offered what we have now, would we agree to join? And I think that's a wholehearted no. But I think it's just really important that we have an opportunity to actually exercise our democratic rights and give ourselves a voice and a say. And it's going to be exciting to see how the next few months roll out.
Absolutely. We're in for, a historic year as we got a referendum approaching. We've never had that happen out in Alberta before. And, I've been watching the independence movement for a long, long time. And something very different this time. There was Doug Christie and the West Fed and such in Western Canada Concept back in the 80s. Then there was the Alberta Independence Party that started at the end of the 90s. But these came and went. They crested. They fell by the wayside. But something's different this time. I think the convoy has a lot to do with that and COVID in general. Because for the first time, there's been lots of political minded people and so on screaming out, hey, your rights are being eroded. The government's getting too big. It's we're losing our checks and balances. And nobody really paid attention to it until they suddenly saw what can happen. When they suddenly realized you can be kept away from your workplace, away from your loved ones. You can, have your rights completely infringed upon. And that feeling of having security, I guess you could say, is gone. Like, people are engaged in a way we've never seen before. The meetings are still packed. We're sold out in Edmonton the other night. And I would think that the convoy had something to do with that.
Well, I think what the convoy did was it exposed a lot of shenanigans that were happening in our federal government. It was so much more. It ended up being so much more than just us traveling there to have a discussion about the mandates. Throughout the whole protest, the Liberal government continued to expose themselves. I think some nefarious intentions. They showed that they were not acting in good faith. And so I think it really opened a lot of eyes, especially out in Western Canada. And let's face it, Western Canadians are tired of being used and ignored. I think the MOU, while a lot of people did applaud Danielle Smith and Mark Carney for the MOU regarding pipelines, it's just a piece of paper. And I think we're tired of lip service and we'd like to see some concrete action.
Oh, absolutely. So what do you think? Let's just jump the clock ahead a little bit. What if there was an independent Alberta, an independent West? What would you want to see to make sure that we don't have to endure? I mean, there's always that risk that we flip out of what we just left and into a smaller version of what that was. What should we be looking to do to ensure we're making a better place rather than just a lateral move or even a worse move?
Well, that you're absolutely right about that. A lot of these things tend to end up exactly the way that they started. I think first and foremost, a smaller government is definitely necessary. I think there's a lot of ways that we're going to be able to succeed. I mean, you go out and you hear some people speak, and it's all doom and gloom, our pensions, and you've raised some excellent points. And not only that, I mean, one of the great things I really like about your book is that you are giving tips on how to do this successfully, how to approach independence successfully, you know, based on your own experience and some mistakes that you've made in the past as well. Pardon me. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, and that's part of it. We can't forget our history. We can't forget the mistakes we've made. That seems to be a bad habit we have doing is, oh, sorry about that. We'll deal with that later. And then we just kind of move on. That was part of my rant to begin with the Kamloops residential school gravesite thing too. People are kind of saying, okay, nothing to see here. Let's just stop looking and not look into that. Well, hang on. I want to see a system where this can't happen again. And I'm not seeing that. And that's part of it too. You know, with what was exposed during the convoy, we're one more virus away from being locked down again. Nothing has changed in that regard. So I think it's important for us, as if we're talking about Independence Alberta, to have people like yourself speaking about, remind us, we've got to have those protections for individuals in a new Alberta.
And that's one reason why we still have to see justice and accountability for the invocation in the first place. Because if we don't see that, then it just leaves it open for them to do it again. What's to stop them from doing it again if there's absolutely no consequences? I mean, what did it cost them? A couple of inquiries, you know. So yeah, I think it's really important that we hold their feet to the fire here.
So just kind of getting in closing, you did release a book a while back. I think I spoke to you when it first popped out, but still, not everybody has read it yet, and they really should. It's called Hold the Line. It gives some background, of course, on everything that happened, your perspective on, you know, how you kind of fell into a position of leading a convoy out there in Ottawa. Where can people find your book?
It's available on Amazon, actually, or you can order it through theconvoybook.com, through Rebel News, I believe, also. And yeah, we're just getting started on book number 2 here in the next week or two. So it'll be exciting. It'll be an exciting summer.
Right on. And so where can people find you these days? I know you've got a new job lately.
Yes. I'm working for Rebel News, actually, which works out fantastic. It allows me to get out of the house for some work exemptions, and it's going to keep me really busy. So you can find me at Rebel News. You can also find me on X at Leach Tamara.
And you're touring on the Independence Tour. There's 5 more stops left on that one. I think it's independencetour.com to see where those are.
It is. Yeah. That's where you can see where we'll be coming. You can get your tickets and all the information about our tour. So, and it's been amazing so far. I love the question and answer portion is actually my most favorite. We've had some really thoughtful questions and some really thoughtful concerns that have come out of this. So I'm really happy about the discussions that I hope that we're sparking anyways.
I hope so too. No, it's been fun. And just in case anybody was wondering, yeah, I'm on that tour as well. So if you want to come out and bend our ears in those question periods and everything else, check out that independencetour.com, get signed books, all that good stuff. And we're moving ourselves closer to that line. Anything else you'd like to add before I let you go then?
No, that's pretty much it for me, I think.
Great. Well, thank you. Our listeners and viewers really appreciate the update. We're always concerned about how things have been going. It's been such a long, drawn-out few years for you. So thanks again, and I guess we'll see you tomorrow night.
Yes, you sure will. Thanks a lot, Corey. Have a great day.
Thank you. So one more time, guys, that is Tamara Leach. You can find her book. It is called Hold the Line. And yes, she's working for Rebel Media. We're competitors in that sense, but they're media outlets that are independent and complement each other. We're not at each other's throats. I want to see everybody subscribe to both publications, not just one or the other. And there's a lot to be fought, a lot to fight for. So let's see what else we got going on here. Provincially, it's been interesting, and we're seeing some folks coming out on that. As we're moving into a referendum year, it's coming this fall, one way or another. And where's Nenshi? Where's this star NDP leader who was going to bring them over the line, who was going to change everything? Naheed Nenshi, former mayor of Calgary. He was, believe it or not, you can Google this. I know it sounds a little hard to believe. I don't know. I'm not a good judge of the mayor appearance, but he was Calgary's sexiest man 4 years running, apparently. Quite something. And after all of that, and he gets to the head of the New Democrat Party, and guess what? He's flopping. Premier Smith is still growing in the polls. She's still gaining. She's doing all right. What's he doing wrong? My views on it, and I've watched Nenshi quite closely for quite a while, is he doesn't know how to operate in a party environment. You see, you got to understand it's a little different. It's one thing to be a mayor and have a room of 15 people that you manage. And he fought mostly with that city council the whole time he was in there as mayor as well. Running a party is a whole different animal. That's where you actually have to have a little bit of humility, which is something Nenshi doesn't have at all. I've been critical of Nenshi in many, many ways on many, many things, and I'll continue to be. One thing I never saw out of him was signs of corruption. I'll give credit where it's for some. In case he's lining his own pocket, he's a rough political player. He'll play dirty. He'll do a lot of that, but he's not corrupted or anything that way. His vice is his vanity. He says it outright. He says he's the smartest man in the room. He walks into a room and he just glows. It's all about him. Well, that's not so well received in a party atmosphere. And I got a feeling, I'm just guessing, that the NDP caucus isn't necessarily too thrilled in being second banana to this man. He's operating on his own. He's talking to them. He was in the leadership, even though he won it handily, as a bit of an outsider. He didn't take his lumps climbing the union ladder to get to the head of the NDP as they usually do. Popped in from the outside as an outside savior. So in a party environment, if you don't have that loyalty and support from your own party members and party organizers and such, you have a much harder time being effective in office. Again, there can be a one-man show. You can't do that as a party leader. But you want to stand as a party leader. You want to be the one that people go to on things. But there are a lot of ambitious people underneath you who expect their due, who expect to be respected, who want their voices to be out there as well. And they're just not feeling it for him. So when you don't have that, he can't effectively take advantage of things. I mean, that procurement scandal with healthcare, and it's really never been resolved. And that was a bad screw up on the part of the Smith government. And I got to say, Notley would have really mopped the floor with Smith over that one. She would have really made and scored some political points. And, I do not want to see the NDP in. I'm not trying to give tips, I guess, in a way that would lead to that. But it shows a different skill set and ability to grab those issues and make use of them. Nenshi is just there, and he just can't seem to get his feet going from under him. And even guys who can't stand Premier Smith, like Don Braid, he's a columnist with the Herald. He's been there forever. He's been writing, like, what the heck is with Nenshi? He's a total flop. So that gives Premier Smith a lot of free rein to do what she wants provincially, when you've got no one breathing down your throat. But what an interesting political picture we got on the go right now. So let's go to the federal polls. I mean, provincially, support for independence has been growing. Western Standard has some exclusive polls. You can see that. And the UCP has been seeing their support grow. But federally, Mark Carney is strong. He's wrapping up the country. Like it or hate it, that's the reality. The Conservatives, speaking again of leaders who can't just seem to manage to capture the imagination or the support of people in general. And I like Pierre Poilievre, but obviously a lot of Canadians don't. And they just continue to keep sinking and sinking. And I don't get it myself. I mean, I certainly don't. So Carney is spending like a madman. He's really not been governing responsibly. Yet at the same time, he's gaining in support. Predominantly, again, Central Canada, of course, as usual. That's the thing. So the rumors are really starting to hit about whether or not Carney is going to call a spring election, a snap election. I'm starting to lean towards thinking he will. And, if you'd asked me a few months ago, I would have said no. And some people are thinking, well, he's getting this close to a majority just by grabbing floor crossers. Why would he bother needing to hold an election? Well, because you want more of a majority if you want to do a bunch of things than just 1 or 2 seats. That still leaves you very vulnerable. That still makes it difficult to maneuver. You're also 2 or 3 seats away from losing your majority at any given time. The temptation has to be strong when he's in a minority right now, but sitting with a 13-14% lead in the country, to find an excuse, and a government can always find an excuse to fall. You could put out another giant budget update or a giant policy or plan, and you know the usual political lines. You just say, this is so important that we must take it to the Canadian people in an election rather than just bringing it through in legislation, because I love you all and respect your views so much that this is the only way we should possibly do this. So we're going to call an election. I'm going to meet with the Governor General. We're going to Parliament and put it to Canadians. See, I could play that stupid game. In reality, it's anything but respect for Canadians. But you hit the Conservatives while they're down. You get in there, and suddenly you win in a majority with a 15-20 seat buffer. Now you can really do all you want. And what I'm starting to see, too, is election-style spending. Now, Carney already was spending in ways that made Trudeau look cheap. But he's still ramping it up. Every day he's putting out another spending announcement. And that deficit is massive, and it just keeps growing. $6 billion more to Ukraine. More for this, more for that, more for this. And the billions just keep adding. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like an election campaign. Because sadly, voters fall for it. They often vote for whoever blows the most sunshine up their butts and whoever promises the most spending. They know that. As shallow as it is, as destructive as it is, because eventually we got to pay the bill. Carney, this fiscal expert, and what kind of fiscal expert puts us in a position where we're spending $1 billion a week on interest on the debt? Yet, that's what he's doing. I smell an election coming. He's going to do it this spring. So let's say he does it, though. Let's say he does that. Let's say by May, he's in with a full majority now. He's got a 10-20 seat buffer. Think of where the independence movement's sitting. Think of what that will do to it. This independence movement that's already snowballing in Alberta, that in Saskatchewan, I'm looking meetings, they're packing rooms out there as well. And the election map will look just the same as it did before. Liberal East, conservative West. Futility, inability to change, an abusive, punitive federal centralized government sniffing down their noses at us. This is where we start getting closer to a winning referendum possibility. Now, what about that? I think there's just so much to cover here, right? So Premier Smith put out her, 9, I think it is, referendum questions that are going to be coming this fall on the 19th. And I know some independent supporters aren't too thrilled with it. I'd rather it was completely separate from it. I honestly, I admit that's for sure, even a different day. But the reality is, for responsibility-wise and so on, you hold the referendum on the same day because, it's just one day of everybody voting. You could have the advance polls together. Everything else like that, you stick them all together. It's done in countries that do a lot of direct democracy. If you look to Switzerland or some others where they hold a lot of regular referenda, there will be multiple questions on the ballot. People saying it'll distract too much from the question. No, it won't. Guys, we'll have 9 questions on the ballot plus an independence question on the 19th. I promise you, 90% of the discussion and coverage is going to be on the independence question. It's going to dominate. And it won't be on the same ballot. There's constitutional, there's citizens initiated, there's non-constitutional. It'll all be the same day, but these are separate things. Because people are saying, that'll violate the Clarity Act because it won't be clear for multiple ballots. Where are you pulling this stuff out of? Really? There's nowhere in the Clarity Act that says that. You can have more than one on the same day. It's still clear. The point is the question being clear and the answer being yes or no. And the APP has been very clear in making sure that question is the exact phrasing of the Clarity Act. John saying we want one question, not 9. We no longer want a united Canada, and she has to stop. Well, okay, I know. I'd rather just one. We've got the 9. And there is a good side of some of this. And part of it is that she is throwing all the spaghetti against the wall and knows it's going to fail. Look at some of the questions. Do you support the Alberta government in directly, basically appointing judges to the Court of King's bench? There's no way. they're ever going to allow that to get through. Not going to happen. We're not going to have a constitutional gathering in Canada of the first ministers to pull any of these off anyways. But having a whole summer of the rest of Canada telling us to get stuffed, every one of these, when Smith puts those out and the rest of the tells her to get stuffed, that tells people that voting yes on the independence question is the only course left. So she's doing all of the whatabouts for us. Because there's a lot of people, and I get these at these Q&As when I go to those meetings, and I'm speaking there. And people have a lot of questions. There's a lot of undecided. What about this? What about this? What about this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? And they're genuine questions. There's still people want to make sure that everything's been tried first. Well, it's throwing it out there and showing that, yeah, she's going to try, but it's going to fail. And so, let's carry on with it. Another of the constant, I know they're a waste of time. I understand in that sense. Do you support the government of Alberta working with governments in other provinces to amend the Constitution to abolish the Senate? Smith knows enough about politics to know that will never pass. You need Quebec and Ontario and the Maritimes who already dominate the Senate. It's the other area where they really run the government over top of those. There's no way in a million years they're going to change that. But it's good to remind everybody they'll never change it, isn't it? So let's have it out there. It's the other one, allowing the province to opt out of federal programs that intrude on provincial jurisdictions, such as health, education, social services, without the government losing any federal funding for its programs. Again, the Laurentian elite, the Andrew Coynes, the rest of them, they're going to tell Alberta to go to hell on that. That's fine. That's fine. And the other one is it's almost bland. It's talking about, ending federal interference and laws dealing with provincial shared areas of a constitution. I understand it's a lot of bafflegab. It is a lot of paper that's going to be eaten up. But I tell you what, if the independence movement isn't strong enough for people to skip past those 9 questions or whatever and vote yes or no on that question anyways, then it's not strong enough to win. The question is clear on that. The question that will be on that ballot is going to say, do you want Alberta to become independent or not? And you'll vote yes or no. So if we can't win based on that, you haven't won. You don't deserve to. Alberta doesn't deserve to become independent. That's the bottom line. We've got the ability. And, again, I don't think Smith's perfect by any means. I don't like every approach she's done. But I still applaud some of it in that she's given us the mechanism. That's something that's fully within her control. She could have sat back and, let's say, when I play that devil's advocate, like I talk about if I was pretending to be Mark Carney, let's say I was pretending to be Smith who really wanted to shut down a referendum when the judge said the question violated treaty rights and such and couldn't be held last fall. Well, boy, I really wish we could give Albertans the choice directly in a referendum on independence, but alas, under the current system, our justices have determined that it just can't happen because of the circumstances with the Indigenous factor. So a referendum can't be held and can't be citizen initiated. I tried what I could. I'm sorry about that. Let's move forward. And you act as if you don't have a choice in it. Instead, what did she do? She amended Bill 14, or brought in Bill 14, which amended the act so it could happen. That's not what somebody who doesn't want the referendum to happen would do. Would she vote yes on a referendum? I don't know. I think personally she probably wants the referendum held just for the political leverage it gives her. That's always that hammer in the background. It helps her a lot. So I don't care what her motivations are, to be blunt. I just want the ability to vote yes or no and to campaign on it and have that democratic vote. And so far we've got that. So stay focused on that. And if she pulls the ability to hold a referendum, well, then we got a problem. Then we got a different issue altogether. But so far we don't have that. And then, there's a bunch of fluff in these non-constitutional questions, too, that are in there. I'm not thrilled with that stuff. I mean, it's just polling, really, is all it's doing when you're getting to that point. But there will be a bunch of referendum put before Albertans this fall. I mean, we saw the equalization 1-2 from Jason Kenney, and that went nowhere, right? 60-some% of Albertans said equalization's dumb and should be removed from the Constitution. And Canada looked at it and said, yeah, well, that's a shame. Keep paying, and we're not transferring back to you. That's life. Either way, it's going to be one heck of a year. If you're in Calgary or check out that independence tour.com. You can meet me tomorrow night if it hasn't sold out yet. Edmonton was sold out. We're going to be hitting a bunch of other spots, Grand Prairie, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, and Westlock, I believe, as well. And we can have these kinds of conversations in person. Be sure to tune into the Pipeline tonight. We got Marty up north with his show going. Nigel's got stuff. Derek just had an interview with the Premier, actually. I have to shamefully admit, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I'm going to watch it this afternoon. So subscribe to those Western Standard channels, guys. Share them with your friends, family, everywhere else. Subscribe, do all that stuff. And this is how we will make Alberta a better place and the rest of the country a better place and get everything over the line. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week at this time.